Good evening, members, officers, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think we have any members of the press. Welcome to this planning committee meeting on the 17th of November. I always have a few housekeeping rules which I would ask you. I know the members are aware of these, but members of the public, I have to give these out. So if the fire alarm is activated, please vacate the offices via the stairs, either through the security door, which is to my right and your left, and down the stairs. Otherwise, use the corridor that you came through, turn sharp left and use the stairs, which will take you down to the ground floor. Please do not use the lifts. Assemble in Holy Square on the green, and an officer, if appropriate, will tell you and bring you back over to this building in the chamber to continue the committee meeting. Is there anyone here this evening going to film our meeting at all? I can't see any hands. Thank you for that. I will remind you that we are being live streamed on the council YouTube channel, and following this meeting this evening you can have another look at us if you wish to, because it is recorded as well. Thank you for that. I also would like to advise members to turn off, and members of the public, turn off their mobile phones, and please do not take calls or make calls while this meeting is in progress. Thank you. Members requesting to speak under Council Procedure 20.1. I have Councillor Towning on item 4C. Is there? Thank you, Councillor Towning. Are there any other members who I can't see who? No, thank you very much. Public speaking. The following applications have been reserved for public speaking. Would members please note that speaking on the agenda is item 5D, 3 Viking Close, Birchington, and item 5C, 17 Northumberland Avenue, Margate. Agenda item 1, I have apologies for absence from Councillor Hopkinson and Councillor Alan Curry. Good evening, Councillor Curry, once again, who's taken Councillor Hopkinson's place. I also am aware that Councillor Jill Bayford is absent tonight. Just for members, if I may, most members know that Councillor Bob Bayford has been pretty poorly in a London hospital, and she has gone up to pick him up today, which I'm sure members like myself wish him a speedy recovery. I know he's gone through a pretty bad time. So thank you for Councillor Orban. Item 2, agenda item 2, are there any declarations of interest? I don't see any, thank you. Agenda item 3, minutes of the Planning Committee held on the 20th of October. Do members agree that the minutes of that meeting are all okay? And if they do, could I have a proposer, please? Thank you. Councillor Hart, seconded by... Thank you, Councillor. I've got my wrong glasses on tonight, so bear with me. Do you all agree? Thank you. Agenda item 4 is Seagulls, Cliff Promenade, Broadstairs. I will now ask the planning officer to outline this report, please.
Excuse me. Thank you, Chair. This is the application site for Seagulls. Members may recall the application, and it's for the erection of a 3-storey building containing 8 2-bedroom self-contained flats. And it was discussed at September's Planning Committee, and at that meeting it was deferred to officers for further information in relation to stability in relation to the creation of the undercroft parking and cliff erosion generally. So I'll just remind members before going on to discuss what it was deferred to, just of the application generally. So as I say, this is the application site outlined in red. So this is the aerial photograph of the site and surrounding area. So the site is again outlined in red. We have Wayfaring to the right here and Hucklow to the left. And so we have some photographs now. The application site is centrally located here. This is Wayfaring and Hucklow. This shows the application site to the left of the photograph and Wayfaring. And this is looking the other way, so you have Hucklow. Oh, sorry, bear with me, Hucklow. Sorry, I'm going the wrong way. Hucklow is this roof you can see here. So this is looking from Cliff Promenade at the front of the existing Seagulls building. This is to the rear of the site. And this is the rear showing the relationship currently of the current building with Hucklow on the right hand side. And this is the other relationship with the existing building edge here, and that's Wayfaring to the left. As members may also recall from the September meeting, the scheme was that they considered in September was an amended scheme from where it originally came in. So this was a scheme in its original submission. So the existing street scheme is at the top here, and this was a scheme when it first came into members, but not the scheme that was considered by members at the meeting in September. This is the scheme that's now being considered and what members looked at in September. So this is the front elevation here, and you can see the neighbouring buildings, so Wayfaring and Hucklow on the left-hand side. This is the side elevation. You can see the 3 stories plus the undercroft parking. We have the rear elevation at the top here and the other flank elevation. This is the underground car parking basement, and it has provision for 10 spaces. This is the ground floor, and it's essentially the 2 bottom floors, so the ground and first floor have 3 flats within them, so 1 running along the rear, 1 here and 1 to the other side. The first floor plan mirrors the floor plan below, and this is the second floor, and it has 2 flats running essentially along the rear with some decking in this location here. And that's the roof plan for the site as proposed. So officers consider the building is well designed, following the amendments that have been secured throughout the application process, and it is in keeping with the scale of surrounding buildings. It utilises materials found within the area, so that is considered a welcome addition to it, and it adds to the variety of the properties that are found in Northumberland estate in generally. It's not considered as an adverse impact on the living conditions of surrounding occupiers or highways, given that there will be on-site provision for 10 spaces and there is on-street parking available in the road. Turning now to issues raised about stability for the car parking basement and cliff stability in general. There was a plan submitted, and I understand it was actually part of the agenda, so members have seen this plan, which was submitted by the applicant, setting out how they would, setting out the detail of the construction of the basement is sequentially, and the details of the digs that would be required for the basement area to be constructed. They advised that the excavation would in fact be well away from the cliff edge, and it would be separated from the road and then also some distance to the actual cliff edge itself. And also it is partly on made ground, which is land that's been raised in the front garden from when they excavated the swimming pool to the rear of the site. And they also advised that that secant piles would board for the perimeter of the basement box before any excavation actually would take place, and that would ensure stability. And if necessary, when the excavation works were being taking place, a ground penetrating radar survey could be carried out, and that should secure stability of that basement excavation. And officers consider that is acceptable. In terms of cliff stability, there is a policy CC03 of the local plan which relates to coastal development, and this actually triggers on land within 40 metres of the cliff top. This development we're considering at Seagulls is some 45 metres away from the cliff top at its closest point. But we have, however, at the instruction of members, sought advice from the council's deputy technical services manager, and he advises that cliff erosion at North Foreland is currently slow and is at approximately 100 millimetres per year. So given this and the further details submitted about the basement excavation works and how they would be carried out, officers consider that there wouldn't be an impact on land stability from this application. So the officer recommendation is, as it was in September, to defer and delegate to officers for the receipt of the undertaking for the SAM contribution. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Annabelle. I move the officer's recommendation is adopted. Could the Vice Chair please second?
I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Coleman-Cook. Members, do you wish to debate this? Councillor Garner.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for the updated report. I obviously personally can't claim to be a technical excavation expert, so I have to take on board what has been stated by the Deputy Technical Services Officer, as I think you said. I mean, I do have issues with some of the statements that have been made. I accept what you say about a 10 centimetre erosion recently, but it's also stated in the report that has reduced, I'm not sure over what period of time that was measured, because it also states in the report that in the previous year there was significant erosion. I think it depends on what the conditions, like the weather, and we've had quite a decent spell of weather and some of the erosion has reduced. But the year before there was more stormy weather and there was more significant erosion. And I think it's a generally accepted fact that as the climate warms, the sea level will rise, there will be more high tides against that cliff, and there will be significantly more erosion. Now obviously that doesn't, if there is more significant erosion on that cliff, that isn't just going to impact this one building, because there are a number of other buildings along there. And obviously at my age, if I owned one of them buildings, I would like to think that maybe it wouldn't affect me living there, but my children, if they were living there, might be wanting to sell pretty quickly once I've gone. But no, that's by the by. I just wanted to make sure that people understood that actually, you know, if we're relying on 10 centimetres of cliff erosion every year for the next 50 years, then I think we're certainly barking up the wrong tree. It's going to get worse than that. The other thing I wanted to raise, when this was discussed at the September meeting, although we did have a number of different concerns about cliff erosion and the underground excavation, there were quite a number of other concerns that were raised by us as to why some of us anyway, were not in favour of this application. Some of those were raised by both the Broadstairs Society and Broadstairs Town Council about this being a development out of keeping with the surrounding area and being against the the recently adopted Broadstairs neighbourhood plan. So I hope that we won't be just discussing and debate and accepting this just on this engineer's report, because I know a number of others of us had other concerns that we might want to consider before we approve or otherwise this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Garner. Members, Councillor Orban.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I wasn't here for the last meeting, and I'm thinking I shouldn't say anything, but I just want to take up a point that Councillor Garner made in relation to the design of the building. I know the area quite well, and over the last 10, 15 years, there's been a number of new developments within that private estate that could actually mirror this. So I don't think that the design issue stands up. There are a number of different designer buildings, some very old, some newish, and I can't see a problem at all with the actual design, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Orban. Okay, members. No, any other councillors? I can't see any councillors with a hand. Okay, members, thank you for that. I'm going to put this to yourselves. The recommendation is to defer and delegate. Could those show with the hands who are in favour, please? Those against? Abstentions? Thank you, members. That is carried, and that's myself as well. Thank you, members, for that. Moving on to agenda item 5, the schedule of planning applications and public speaking. If there are any site visits, as I think members are aware, we are sort of back to normal as I speak tonight. They will take place on Friday the 3rd of December 2021. Agenda item 5B is a planning application for approval at number 3 Viking Close, Birchington. Speaking in favour of the application is Mr. Jackson. Mr. Jackson, are you there?
Good evening, Chair.
Good evening. You have 3 minutes, Mr. Jackson.
Our clients asked us to speak tonight to clear up a few misconceptions regarding this variation of condition application and some of the items raised in objections. Firstly, with regard to condition 5 and the choice of brick, the Hoskin Lithium 45 was selected by the client from the outset. It was used in all of the drawings and 3D visualisations for the original application, and details of this brick were provided to the planning officer during the course of the application and prior to determination. Unfortunately, this was not picked up in the decision notice, which instead referenced the generic buff brick, which was initially noted on the application form. Although slightly darker in tone than the buff brick, the Lithium 45 is a highly attractive choice and very suitable for a contemporary building such as this. It's important to keep in mind that the client was careful to consult all of his adjoining neighbours prior to submission, all of whom confirmed that they were fully in support of his design and materials choices. This is reflected by the 9 letters received in support of the original application and the 20 letters received in support of this variation of condition application. Had there been any doubt about the specific nature of the proposed brick, a materials condition could have been added to the original decision notice, which would have enabled us to avoid any need for enforcement on this matter. Regarding condition 3, details of proposed cycle parking were requested on the original application consent. Despite this information being clearly annotated on the originally submitted and approved drawings, therefore we've been required to include this item for removal of condition as part of this section 73. Lastly, regarding condition 2 and the height of the boundary walls, the proposed height increase to the boundary walls relates to walls within the site, between the application site and the neighbours' properties, not around the curtilage or the outside of the site, and it will therefore have no impact on the appearance of the development from the surrounding area. The increase in height is relatively modest, but it will enable a far cleaner relationship with the adjacent garage to number 2, and it will screen that flank elevation of the garage and the roof detail. Again, it is important to keep in mind that the client has previously consulted his adjoining neighbours on this matter prior to the application, all of whom were fully in agreement of the proposed wall height, in agreement with the proposed material, the brick, and fully in support of the application. Indeed, some have even paid towards the construction of this wall. I hope this clarifies some of the issues surrounding the application, and thank the committee for their time this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. I will ask Mr. Livingston, our planning officer, to read out his report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So the application is a variation of condition application under Section 73 of the Planning Act in relation to the approval that for the application that members looked at in April, which was for the erection of a dwelling house in replacement of the existing bungalow. So in the centre of the aerial image, you'll see the previous bungalow that was in situ at this site, adjacent to the open space. This was the approved design that came through, and as has just been outlined, there are a few changes that have been made to clear up some of the issues that have come up with the scheme. So just have a little look. This was a visualization that was produced, as mentioned, showing the brick, but as identified, the details that were submitted on the application form indicated that the brick on the ground floor would be a buff multi-stock brick. The dwelling that's then been constructed so far, and the proposal that's with us this evening, is to change the brick to a grey brick, which you can see obviously on the ground floor. So the ground floor is the brick element. The upper floors are the sort of rendered elements, which are lighter. So just go around some of the photos of the property at the moment. So you've got just another view here in relation to number 2 Viking Close. You've then got the side wall, which we'll come back to in a bit. And then looking back towards the side wall, looking back towards the open space. And then the further out view of the development, just showing the site in its context. This is an image just showing opposite the site, the other side of the green, just showing the variety of designs of properties, but also the variety of materials that's found in the area. And the report identifies some of the different types of materials that you can find in the vicinity of this site. So this is the approved front elevation of the property. If I can ask members to have a little look where the mouse pointer is between number 2 and number 3. I just want to show the difference in terms of the boundary walls that are proposed. So as outlined in the report, there was a 2 metre high wall to the boundary with number 2. That's being increased to 2.45 metres in height. That increase in height is happening adjacent to the garage of number 2, so it's not considered there's any impact on residents of number 2. Then just looking at the rear of the building, so that increased boundary wall height is on the right hand side of that image, so that's the proposed plan showing the height. Then looking at the side elevation, so this is if you're at number 2 looking back towards the site, so you can see the back of the wall here, and then just going to the landscaping. So what has also changed as a result of this application is a slight variation in the position of the gates and slight changes to the landscaping at the rear, as well as the rear wall, which obviously goes onto the neighbours on Minnis Road, is increasing by from 2.3 to 2.4, and given the location of that, it's not considered that increase is significant at all. So if I click through, then you'll see that the gate has changed slightly. There's slight change to the landscaping, but nothing to impact on the overall visual impact of the development in the area. So just to confirm the other point, as mentioned, the annotation is on the plan showing that the cycle storage is contained within the garage, so it's not considered that this condition, which was placed on the original consent, is necessary because the site has clear ability to have cycle storage in that garage. So one of the issues that's come up that I just wanted to address within the representations that have come in relates to the boundary of this property with the open space. So this is a map just to confirm the council ownership of the actual green itself, but not of this side access way where the mouse pointer is going up and down. What you can see here is that there is a slight dog leg out in the boundary on using the council's OS plan, which is also shown on the original site location plan, and obviously that is a boundary that has simply been replaced where it was with the new construction. So it's not considered that that has changed at all from the original submission. So it's not something that's been considered within this variation. So overall, The changes are not considered to water down the previous permission that's been granted or cause any adverse impact on the character and appearance of the area or indeed neighbours. It is considered there's sufficient variation of material in the area that this doesn't appear out of keeping, and therefore the application is recommended for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ian. I move the officer's recommendation is adopted. Could the Vice Chair please second?
I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Coleman-Cook. Members. Councillor Keane.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question about the boundary wall. Why was the height of that increased? Do you know?
No, I don't have the information as to why in terms of the boundary wall at the side, which is obviously increased by the most by the 0.4. But in terms of the considerations, it's really about it's the visual impact, and the second bit would be obviously impact on that neighbour. And in fact, on the image on the screen, you can see where the garage is on the side, which means that the nearest habitable room window in the neighbouring property is set away by the width of the garage. So that increase of 0.4 isn't considered to be problematic. Plus, if I go back to the images, you can see that there is a slight, the land level drops down. So if I go to this image here, you can see the land level of the green is a bit higher than the actual land level of the property. So on a visual impact terms, it's not considered there's a wider harm from the increase in height of that wall, in the vicinity of the green, simply because of the context that it's in.
Thank you. Councillor Alban.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I suppose the main issue really is the material in the ground floor. Personally, I quite like it. I think it's doesn't detract from anywhere, and I think the other issues about the walls are very minor, and I'll be supporting this, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Alban. Members, any other hands raised? No, thank you. So once again, I put this to yourselves. Members, if you show hands who are in favour, please show. Those against? Abstentions? I'm for it as well. Members, thank you. That has been carried. Thank you. Okay, agenda item 5C is the planning application for approval of number 17 at Northumberland Avenue, Margate, speaking and raising points of concerns. I think Mr. Brown knows how long he's got. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm speaking on behalf of three neighbours, the three neighbours that all are adjacent to this site, and want to cover three issues, if I can: street scene, neighbour impact and consultation. Starting with street scene, the immediate street scene here has hardly changed since it was built. Brick elevations and hipped roofs with some tile and render detail predominate. There have been some changes made that did not require planning permission, but no other material changes. This proposal introduces gable roofs to both side and rear elevations and clads the building in cedral cladding, which is not present in the immediate street scene. The loss of space between buildings, introduction of gable ends and use of cladding are all out of character with the street scene when viewed from the opposite side of the road. Now on to neighbour impact. The proposal changes a diminutive single-storey bungalow into a two-storey house with a large rear dormer and rear windows overlooking neighbours. The erection of the dormer is only possible because of the roof height being increased. The officer report is therefore wrong to state that the dormer could be carried out as permitted development. The bulk and depth of the two-storey extensions to either side of the existing bungalow also affects the outlook from two neighbours either side of the application site. Both neighbours have existing side windows. The proposed extensions will reduce light to and outlook from those side windows, which serve habitable rooms. And finally, on to consultation. The MPPF encourages pre-applicant consultation and clear notification of the proposal by the local planning authority. This is a close-knit community who had no idea of the proposed extensions, until they were notified by the planning authority. The notification letter had an incorrect description which further misled the neighbours. The neighbours had to get a consultant involved to point this out, resulting in further notification to clarify that the proposal involved two-storey development and an increase in the height of the building. It was only then that they were aware of the extent of the development. This has been made worse by the fact that no one from the planning office has visited the objectors' properties to assess the impact of the scheme when viewed from their gardens, surely an essential requirement when assessing this proposal. The objectors therefore request that Planning Committee visit the gardens as part of a site visit to see the extent of the development and its impact upon the street scene and neighbour amenity prior to determining the application. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr Brown. Speaking as Ward Councillor, Councillor Towning.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Committee. I have been contacted as a local councillor by 3 of the neighbours to the application site. It is unusual for a group of neighbourhoods to get together like this and show the level of distress they have. They were all aware that they were all unaware of the proposed development until the planning application was made and misled by the initial description. When it was clear that the extent of the scheme was, they contacted me and appointed a consultant to represent them. The application proposal changed the existing small bungalow, similar to number 15, into a two-storey house. The building extends to the back and the side, removing the hip roof, and leaves the open space at the first floor level to the gable that enclosed those spaces. This has the effect of damaging the street scene and losing the daylight and overlooking all 3 properties. Number 19, Northumberland, has a side window on the ground floor and first floor level that will lose light and overlook because of the gable wall close to their boundary and the rear flat roof dormer. Number 11, Lonsdale, has a side garden that runs along the back of the applicant's application property. This will lose its privacy because the new windows and the doors overlook its garden. Number 15, Lonsdale, will have a large extension running beyond its side elevation, close to the south boundary, resulting in the loss of outlook and sunlight. I ask you, councillors, to hold a site meeting to assess these concerns themselves, as the case officer did not visit their properties as part of the site assessment. Because of the lack of consultation, provision of an incorrect notification letter, and the lack of a visit of the planning officer, I feel it's the least these people can be afforded. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Towning. And I ask our planning officer, Annabelle, to outline her report.
Thank you, Chair. So this is the application site outlined in red, number 17. This is number 15 and number 19, and this is number 11, Lonsdale Avenue, which has its rear garden running along behind number 17 and number 15. So this is an aerial view of the site and the surrounding area. So this is number 17. This is number 11 with its rear garden, and numbers 19 and numbers 15. This is standing in Northumberland Avenue. So this is the application site here. This is number 15. You can see a side dormer with some windows there. And number 19, as you can see, is a two-storey property with an outbuilding in between that and number 17. This photograph is from inside the application site, and looking towards the rear of the garage of number 17, and the boundary in the photo that you can see on the right-hand side is between number 17 and number 15. This is again inside the rear garden of number 17, and that's number 15 you can see there with the side dormer and the windows within that dormer. This again is in the rear garden, so you can see the rear elevation of number 17 as it stands now, and you can see to the side of it the dormer window of number 15. This is the rear elevation, and behind of number 17 you can see number 19 to the left hand side of the photo, and this is another view of the relationship between number 17 and number 19. You can see the roof of the outbuilding that sits between the two properties, but it's an outbuilding excuse me, for number 19. So this block plan gives, you can see the hatch areas actually show where the applications, the property is being extended. So this is the existing front elevation that we've just seen, the garage here, and this is the proposed front elevation. So you can see the roof changing form here and being lifted up. It is correct that there is some uniformity of the street scene on this side of the road, but there is variety further along in the street scene, so it's not considered that this change in roof form would be detrimental, significantly detrimental to character and appearance of the area, because there is variety more generally as you look up along the road. And just for information, the height of the roof is being increased by 0.5 metres. This is side elevation facing number 15 as existing, and this is it as proposed. So you can see again the changes in the roof are there. This is the side facing number 19, and again that's the elevation as proposed, and you can see the flat roof dormer coming into play here. The rear elevation as existing, and the rear elevation as proposed. So this is the dormers here. This is actually an ensuite window, and these are 2-bedroom windows. And we'll look at the floor plans in a bit. Oops, sorry. So that there is considerations that members need to make on the basis of the fact that number 17 as it currently stands is a single-storey dwelling. It does not have windows, therefore, at first floor level to the rear, but it is considered that a dormer could be placed there under permitted development, and it could contain windows, and it is set out in the report that that couldn't be done with the roof being raised, but it could be done with the roof remaining at the same height, but a dormer could go there. So there is a fallback position for members to think about there. Looking at the position of the rear windows, as I said, the two with the Juliet balconies are bedroom windows, so it's anticipated they would be clear glazed. It is not considered that there would be a direct view from those windows into the gardens of number 19 or number 15, given their angles, and there might be a very slight angled view of the corners of those gardens. The garden of number 11 Lonsdale Avenue, as we've stated, is located here, so it runs to the rear of number 15 and number 17 and number 15. And the proposed dormer window and the rear extension would face onto the rear garden of number 11. But there is some 11 metres from the rear of the proposed extension to the shared boundary between the properties. And as stated, the proposed dormer would contain 3 windows, with the middle one being an ensuite, so obscure glazed. And it accepted that, but given the fallback position of the ability to put a dormer window in the rear elevation, albeit without the roof being raised, and the separations distance between number 11 and the rear dormer. As well as the orientation of the properties. So it would not, the rear dormer would be in this location here, set in a little from the edge of the property, as we can see in this drawing here. It's not considered that there would be a direct impact so significant to warrant a recommendation of refusal for the proposal. So the officer recommendation is for approval, albeit that it is agreed there may be some potential for overlooking to number 11, given those proposed first floor windows. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Annabelle. I move the officer's recommendation is adopted. Could the Vice Chair please second?
I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Coleman-Cook. Members, Councillor Orban.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Personally, I'd like to go and have a look at the site, Chair. I'm listening to what's been said from the residents, and I think in this particular case, it doesn't look particularly good from the rear, and so I want to have a look at that, and I'd like to see, I want to see the impacts of the adjoining properties on this current one, on the application site, because again there was a high building to one side. So I would like to, I would propose a site visit, Chair.
I'll come back to you in a moment, Councillor Orban. Thank you. Councillor Garner.
Yeah, thank you. I'd echo Councillor Orban's point. I totally 100% agree with him on this occasion, as I do on a number of occasions. Thank you.
I won't comment on that, Councillor Garner.
Of course you would.
Councillor Hart.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, I think it's an unfortunate situation, this one, because if we go against the approval, they can still do exactly the same thing without raising the roof. So it's a no-win situation for number 11 regardless. And bearing that in mind, I mean, I don't think a site visit will make any difference, because the owner of the property is just going to put one in regardless, and under permitted development. So I can't really see what we're arguing about, really, to be fair. Thank you.
Thank you. Did I see Councillor Paul Moore?
Yes, thank you, Chair. It is Paul Moore, yes. I agree with my fellow colleague here. If permitted development allows them to do that anyway, they're still going to get what they want. And, you know, at the end of the day, they're going to get something slightly different, but they're still going to get what they want. The only thing I would suggest is that maybe you put a condition on it that they add some screening for number 11 at the rear, which possibly may be a condition, but that we can't impose that because we're only looking at what's in front of us. But maybe they could go back and discuss that with number 11, maybe some additional screening for their concerns. But I don't think a site visit is going to really help. You've got a tall building to one side, a dormer to the other, and they can do it under permitted development anyway. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that, Councillor Moore. Mr. Livingston, wish to come back on that.
I just want to come back on one point about the PD fallback. They are obviously proposing to increase the roof in this occasion, so the dorm window is effectively higher than anything that could be built under permitted development. So it's just important to make that distinction, that there is a consideration there that's necessary to make about whether or not this is an increase in overlooking above anything that could be done under PD. So I think just wanted to make that distinction. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Did I see Councillor Brzezinski? Did you? No.
I mean, the 2 points raised, one by Councillor Orban, go and visit the site. Yeah, I agree with that. I think maybe we should go and have a look at the site. But also the permitted development point is a very good point, because they will get most of what they want through permitted development.
Thank you, Councillor Brzezinski. Councillor Hart, do you want to come back?
Thank you, Chair. So just go back on Ian's point. What is the difference between the permitted development height of the window compared to that would be allowed under this one to be approved of? Are we talking a couple of inches, 6 inches, or are we talking sort of 3 or 4 feet?
Can you?
I can't give the precise measurement from, but I think it's important to just outline the plan. If I might instruct Annabelle to possibly change back to the other plan to the existing, because the ridge is increasing, where the body of any dormer window in this instance would be, has increased, and obviously what you've been able to get in is, if you could go to the proposed, is to effectively raise anything that could be under permitted development up quite. I mean, I imagine it's about 0.5 metre. I think it is quite, it's more and it's higher. So I think what officers have looked at in this instance is the relationship between the two properties, especially it's awkward because of the way number 11 is perpendicular. So, you're always going to create some overlooking with anything that goes in that roof space. You obviously have got the property to one side, which obviously is 2-storey and does have a roof terrace at first floor level, but that doesn't offer direct views. So it's a combination of factors. It's the relationship with the existing property next door, as well as the potential to act under permitted development to create and put windows into that roof slope. Those things in combination. But the reason I raised the distinction earlier is because it's not as straightforward as saying, well, they can't do this under permitted development. I think that's the important thing. So this does in terms of what you're seeing on the screen, that relationship still needs to be considered even when there is a fallback in our view that they could put windows in that roof slope. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Chair, just to come back. So it'd be windows under permitted development rather than doors.
I personally think I haven't tested this. I personally think it would be a struggle to get the height of the door in there, but I don't have that information, so I can't speak to that in detail. So I think members just need to consider what is in front of them in this instance to be able to see whether or not there's an issue. And obviously, I have heard mention of a site visit to look at that relationship as well, which obviously is noted.
Thank you, Ian. I'm looking at members. Councillor Crittenden.
On paper, so to speak, I like the look of this. I am hearing, though, the issue about the lack of communication, and I think that is particularly something that has really brought us to where we are. And I would be quite happy to go with the site visit that would enable us to just double check out that difference between the permitted development and what we've got in front of us, and hopefully give them some time to talk to each other.
Thank you, Councillor Crittenden. Any other members wish to speak before I put this to yourselves? And that's what is in front of us at the moment. So if you could please, those in favour of the application, could they please show? Those against? Abstentions? Sure, I thought you'd gone to sleep there for a minute. That falls. Therefore, on listening, as we have done, listen to a consultant and ward councillor, I'm going to propose that we have a site visit to this property, and I would like a seconder for that, please, which I have Councillor Orban. Those in favour, please show. Anyone against? Thank you very much. We have a morning out on the 3rd of December. Thank you very much, members.
Sorry, Chair, can I just confirm what time that will be?
9:30.
I may have to miss that, I'm afraid.
Oh.
It's my first dental appointment for 2.5 years.
I hope it comes out all right. Right. That concludes the public speaking, and therefore I'm going to ask our clerk, James, to read out the remaining planning applications. If there is a member wishing to reserve one of those applications, could they please show their hand, please? James.
Thank you, Chair. So the remaining 3 applications are 5A, which is for approval, land on the east side of 119 King Street, Ramsgate. 5D, again for approval, which is the West Cliff Terrace Mansions at Pegwell Road, Ramsgate. And 5E for approval, 14 Osborne Terrace, Margate. Thank you.
Thank you, James. I didn't see any hands in the air there, so therefore could I have a proposer to move those applications, please? Councillor Alban, thank you. Could I have a seconder? Take your pick, James. Do members agree? Thank you, members. That's it. I've been kicked if I'm wrong. Members, thank you very much for your attendance tonight. And you can watch it all over again on YouTube channel. Take care going home as always and stay safe. Thank you, officers. Thank you.